At the heart of Christian history, the crucifixion of Jesus is an undeniable event. But what if everything we know is about to be challenged? Ancient texts, long forgotten, are resurfacing with explosive revelations. What was thought to be a sacred certainty has now turned into an unsettling mystery. The Gospel of Barnabas, a banned manuscript, suggests that Jesus may never have died on the cross. Imagine the scene. Instead of succumbing to pain, he would have been rescued by his followers, disappearing in an act of survival. What would this mean for the Christian faith? Could the resurrection, which is the basis of so many beliefs, be a distorted narrative? And why was this truth kept secret? These questions echo through the centuries, challenging history as we know it. As we delve into this maze of information, get ready to discover how this theory could change everything you thought you knew about Jesus. What else is hidden in the shadows of history? The answer may be closer than we think. The mystery has just begun. In the first centuries of Christianity, many texts were written, but not all of them managed to enter the official canon of the Bible. An intriguing example is the Gospel of Barnabas, which proposes a different narrative about the life of Jesus. This text suggests that he did not die on the cross, something that contrasts with the central belief of Christianity. The origin of this gospel is shrouded in mystery, and its dating and historical context are debated by scholars. While some believe it was written in the 1st century, others date it later, to the 14th century. The reason why texts like the Gospel of Barnabas were considered apocryphal is linked to their divergence from canonical Gospels such as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These writings not only presented a different view of Jesus, but also challenged the authority of early church. The need to maintain a coherent and unified narrative led religious authorities to discard them. Thus, these texts were labeled as forbidden, and their implications remain to this day. Furthermore, analysis of these writings reveals a lot about the beliefs and insecurities of the time. Early Christians were in the midst of a struggle for identity, and the different narratives about Jesus reflected this search. The forbidden texts, which spoke of a Jesus who could have survived, also raised questions about death and resurrection, fundamental pillars of the Christian faith. Therefore, its elimination from the canon was a way of protecting established doctrine. The implications of considering these texts reveal a world in which faith was not monolithic. The diversity of thoughts and interpretations about the figure of Jesus shows us that the history of Christianity is more complex than it seems. The presence of these apocryphal writings, however marginalized they may have been, invites us to reflect on the different facets of spirituality and the Christian narrative. The discussion about forbidden texts like the Gospel of Barnabas is not just academic, it touches on issues of faith and belief up to the present day. For many, this type of analysis offers a new perspective on the history of religion and how we construct our beliefs over time. The crucifixion of Jesus is one of the best-known narratives in Christianity. The canonical Gospels describe the moment in vivid detail, presenting Jesus as a martyr who sacrifices himself for our sins. However, there are claims that challenge this version, suggesting that he could have survived the crucifixion. This idea provokes a re-evaluation of what we know about this central event. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John present crucifixion as an act of public condemnation and a fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies. However, the interpretation that he did not die on the cross leaves room for questions about the authenticity of these narratives. If Jesus really survived, it would change the way we understand his mission and the message he left. Analysis of the accounts of the crucifixion also reveals the intention of the Gospel authors. They write in a context where the legitimacy of the Christian faith needed to be reaffirmed in the face of a hostile empire. Therefore, emphasizing Jesus' death as a sacrifice could have been a strategy to consolidate belief in his divinity and resurrection. If he hadn't died, this narrative would lose some of its weight. Furthermore, the comparison between the descriptions of the crucifixion and the claims of survival reveals a gulf between tradition and the possibility of new interpretations. The lack of consensus on specific details, such as the nature of Jesus' pain and suffering, raises questions about the veracity of the narratives. What really happened on that fateful day? This uncertainty becomes a crucial point for those who seek to understand the figure of Jesus beyond conventions. The crucifixion narrative is not just a historical account, but a central element in the formation of Christian identity. The possibility that Jesus survived the cross challenges not only the traditional interpretation of events, but also the way in which believers relate to the figure of Jesus and his message. This new perspective can generate a space for dialogue and broader reflections on faith. The theory that Jesus could have been rescued by his followers after his crucifixion is a provocative idea. For many, this hypothesis seems absurd, but there are those who consider it a possibility worthy of investigation. Historical accounts talk about the loyalty of the disciples and the love they had for Jesus, which raises the question, would they be able to attempt a rescue at such a critical moment? The motivations for this rescue can be varied. Jesus' followers believed in his message and had hope for a new future. If the crucifixion did not mean the end, but a new opportunity to spread their doctrine, it was natural that they would want to preserve their master's life. Furthermore, the idea of a rescue could also serve to fuel the hope that Jesus would return in some way, transforming the tragedy into a new narrative. Rescue methods, in turn, generate speculation. Tradition tells us that Jesus' body was placed in a tomb, but what if it had been removed before that? The night, with its shadows and mysteries, could have provided the perfect opportunity for the disciples to accomplish this task. This possibility, although shrouded in uncertainty, opens up a range of discussions about the action of the followers and how they could have planned this mission. The implications of Jesus surviving would be profound. If he had actually escaped death, it would change the Christian narrative in a significant way. The resurrection, which is one of the pillars of faith, could be seen in a new light. Jesus' message could have continued to be disseminated in other ways, perhaps even on a larger scale, if his life had been preserved. This theory of rescue and survival provokes us to think about what we actually know and believe. The story of Jesus is rich in symbolism and meaning, and the possibilities of his life after the crucifixion invite us to explore not only the past, but also the diverse ways in which faith can be interpreted and experienced in the present. The idea that Jesus did not die on the cross can have a profound impact on the central doctrines of Christianity. The resurrection, one of the pillars of the Christian faith, is based on the belief that Jesus was crucified and 3 days later resurrected. If the narrative of his death is questioned, the resurrection loses its basis, leading to a re-examination of all Christian theology. This could raise doubts about salvation and the atonement of sins, concepts that depend on Jesus' sacrificial death. Furthermore, the divine nature of Christ, which is central to most Christian traditions, can be challenged. If Jesus survived the crucifixion, the idea of his divinity can be seen in a new light. The implications are vast, as many believers base their faith on the belief that Jesus is both human and divine. A reinterpretation of this dualism could lead to a crisis of faith for many. Atonement theology, which teaches that Jesus' death was a sacrifice for the sins of humanity, would also be affected. If Jesus did not die, how does this line up with the narrative that he paid the price for sins? This could create confusion and divisions within the Christian community, which is already diverse in its interpretations and beliefs. Traditions that venerate the cross as a symbol of redemption and hope may need to reconsider its meaning. For many, the cross is the center of faith, and a new perspective on Jesus' death could transform this symbol into something more complex. This can lead to debates about what it really means to be a Christian and how the cross is viewed in religious practice. The impact on Christian theology could result in a movement toward new understanding. This would not only affect doctrines, but also the daily lives of believers who may feel lost or encouraged to explore different paths of faith. The search for answers could lead to a re-examination of Scripture and a new appreciation of church history. The concealment of the alternative narrative about Jesus' death may have several historical and social reasons. The early church, seeking to consolidate its power, was interested in maintaining a narrative that was unifying and did not challenge Roman authorities. Jesus' crucifixion, as a tragic and sacrificial event, helped create an identity for Christians in a hostile world. The relationship between the early church and the Roman Empire also needs to be considered. Church leaders had to navigate complicated terrain where acceptance and protection of the empire were crucial to the survival of the new faith. Promoting the idea that Jesus was a martyr who died for humanity could have been a way to gain sympathy and support, diverting attention from possible narratives that could be seen as subversive. Furthermore, the social context of the time favored maintaining the status quo. The idea that Jesus survived could provoke a crisis of faith and division among followers. To avoid internal disputes and maintain cohesion, it was more convenient to silence any theory that contradicted the official narrative. This could have led to the marginalization of texts and ideas that did not fit well into the dominant view. Fear of social control also played a role. The Church, upon establishing itself as a powerful institution, could have felt threatened by other interpretations that cast doubt on its authority. The exclusion of certain truths could have been a strategy to avoid dissent and maintain unity among the faithful. The search for a single and absolute truth is a common feature in many religions. The need for a clear and simple narrative may have led to the silencing of dissenting voices. This results in a Christian story that, over the centuries, has been shaped to align with the needs and interests of those in power, often at the expense of a more complex and diverse vision of the figure of Jesus. The theory that Jesus did not die on the cross can open up a range of new interpretations about Christianity. For many, this may mean rethinking the very essence of faith. If Jesus did indeed survive, the traditional resurrection narrative takes on a new layer of complexity. Rather than just being a supernatural event, the resurrection could be seen as a symbol of resistance and survival. This could inspire Christians to reflect on issues of life, death, and the fight for justice in deeper ways. Furthermore, this perspective can challenge the notion of sacrifice as fundamental to the Christian faith. The idea that Jesus escaped death may question the importance of crucifixion in Christian spirituality. For many, crucifixion is the ultimate act of love and redemption. However, if he survived, it could lead to a re-evaluation of beliefs about atonement and forgiveness. Christians could begin to see Jesus' message in a new light, where the emphasis would not be so much on death but on life and his teachings. Culturally, this theory can also have a significant impact. By challenging dominant narratives, an opportunity arises for more inclusive and diverse dialogues within the Christian community. This can open space for the acceptance of different interpretations of the faith, allowing those who feel alienated by traditional doctrines to find a place where their doubts and questions are welcome. In an increasingly pluralistic world, this flexibility can be a foundation for unity between different currents of Christianity. Spiritually, Jesus' idea of survival may resonate with many believers who seek a more personal and direct sense of their relationship with divinity. If Jesus is seen as someone who faced death and came back to life, it may encourage Christians to feel more connected to him in their own struggles. This identification can result in a more authentic faith practice, where individual experiences of pain and overcoming are recognized as part of the spiritual journey. New interpretations of the figure of Jesus may even have implications for interreligious relations. The possibility of an alternative narrative can serve as a starting point for deeper interfaith dialogues. Rather than seeing each other as enemies, different traditions can find common ground in their searches for meaning and truth. Thus, this theory not only provokes questions within Christianity, but can also contribute to greater understanding and respect between the world's diverse beliefs. As we explore this intriguing theory, we are led to reflect on the profound implications it has for our understanding of Jesus and his message. If he truly escaped the cross, what teachings could he have shared in his final years? What hidden truths could be hiding in the shadows of history? It's fascinating to think that for centuries, a narrative may have been manipulated, silencing voices and revelations that could change our perspective on faith. What if everything we know about the resurrection is just one layer of an even more complex truth? What else is hidden in forbidden texts and forgotten accounts? We invite you to continue this journey with us. What other theories can we dig up about biblical figures? What secrets still remain between the lines of the story? Leave your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more content that challenges the traditional view. The truth may be stranger than fiction, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface. Get ready to delve deeper into the mystery.